Hello. Hi. I'm gonna save the live, so hopefully when you're done, you could still replay it. Um, okay. I am so sorry, guys. Give me 1 second. Okay. Okay, so I didn't name this live what I'm about to say now, but it's something that I think most people should start doing. If you want to start seeing a lot of results with manifesting, I feel like this is something that not too many people do, only because the 3D can be so triggering. So, what I'm referring to is, and I even said this on my Twitter yesterday, I was saying that truly when you just move in the 3D without labeling anything as nothing, then you will see how truly of a nothing those circumstances really are. Like, I even told people yesterday, do it for a week and see how things move or see how things change when you don't make every little thing mean something negative, when you don't make any little thing mean something that is against you or has to do with something bad about you. Things that are quote unquote bad or negative are not truly bad or negative. They're just neutral. We just assign those meanings. And if it's something that you just can't help but label bad or negative, my recommendation is to approach it with the idea that this is temporary. It's not going to last long because you as source has have already created a new assumption. And we know with the law, whatever you assume to be true is true. The second you make a new assumption, your new story is now valid. But that's something I always feel like I fall back on is not labeling anything or not judging the 3D, no matter what it may look like, no matter what it may seem like. My job in those instances where things seem a little odd or weird or funny is to just say this has nothing to do with me, or like I'll even talk about the circumstance in my head. I'll say something along the lines of like, so was that supposed to make me come out of my assumption? Or was this supposed to make me change my assumption or change my viewpoint on what I know to be true? Like, I'll say things like that. I'll prompt myself when situations happen that are not ideal. Because truly, those situations don't mean anything, they're all neutral. It doesn't matter if, like, an SP left you on red, that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean that they don't like you. That doesn't mean that they don't want to be around you. That doesn't mean that they don't love you. That doesn't mean anything. It truly does not mean anything. And I've seen this happen time and time and time and time and time and time again. I literally have texted someone. They left me on red. Now imagine if I were to have taken that as something negative and internalized it and made an assumption about that. Because I didn't internalize what that person did, 15 minutes later, After they read my message, they literally texted me, "Are you mad at me?" I'm like, "How did we get here? How did we get here?" Hello. I am a uni student. I feel so left behind. I just can't cope. I don't know how to identify myself with desired identity. Because all of that, I don't have time to manifest other major things. So here's the misconception when it comes to manifesting. It's not about effort. Manifesting was never about effort. It was never. Okay, one thing I'm so curious to learn is who is teaching everyone manifestation, first of all. Who is teaching people about manifestation? Because I feel like a lot of the people who come to me are coming to me because of the stuff that they learn very wrong outside of my teachings. Manifestation was never about efforting, it was never about doing more work, it was never about doing anything. You don't have to do anything with manifesting. So when I see people, for example, like this one, about how you don't have time to manifest, it's not about having time or separating time to manifest. It's something that's always happening because the law is always occurring. You cannot turn off a universal law. So not having time to set apart to manifest doesn't make any sense, because even when you feel like you don't have time, you're still doing it. Even in moments where your plate is full, you're still doing it. So it's not about doing more. It's not about setting time apart to manifest. It's about realizing that the only thing that manifests is your assumption. And that was never anything that's considered work, or that was never anything that you had to actively take time out of your day to do. Is just something that you're doing all the time. Thing is, people a lot of the times let their physical world determine what assumptions they carry. And my whole thing is, you're not supposed to be letting the physical world make assumptions for you. But in terms of like identity and stuff, right? You can just claim to have an identity, which literally takes 2 seconds. Literally takes 2 seconds. You can say, I am this person. See how fast that was? I am rich. I am wealthy. I am adored. I'm SP's favorite person. I'm my favorite person. I'm the priority. I'm pursued. I'm irresistible, magnetic, alluring, all these other things. See, it only just takes a second. Now, after you have claimed the identity, you are now that person right this second. Right this very moment, you are that person. The thing is, like I said previously, once you assume an identity, the thing that trips people up is people want to see evidence like immediately, like a second later. A second later, people want to see results. Manifestation, or your manifestation being true, has nothing to do with evidence. Everyone take out a piece of paper and pen right now and write this down. Manifestation has nothing to do with evidence. It never had anything to do with evidence. It never dealt with seeing anything physically. It never is about holding something or seeing. It was never about validation externally. Something being true is solely dependent on the assumption and the assumption alone. So if you've been manifesting with the idea that you can only assume something is real if you see it physically, you are holding yourself back. I mean, you can, maybe that's a limiting belief, and maybe that is something that, I don't know, works for you to manifest. And if that's the case, then don't take what I just said. But you could be even more limitless without having to wait for evidence, which is what I think 99% of people are doing, which is why you're frustrated, which is why you keep doubting, because you're not understanding that the reason why you're not manifesting is because you're supposed to make the assumption first without evidence. And that's how you manifest. Okay, let me read your comments. Yeah, the second you change your assumption, you're instantly in that new story right now. So this is why I tell people, like, don't get so caught up in moments where you have like negative thoughts, because first of all, they're just thoughts. You don't even have to label them as negative, but for those, who are not quite caught up, I'm just going to say negative so you understand what I'm saying. um, Thoughts are just thoughts. They don't mean anything until you give them meaning. So when you have a quote unquote negative random thought, you just observe and you don't identify with it. You don't give it any meaning. And then instantly in that moment, it loses its power because it it can't be, you can't fear something that is nothing. I want to study but unable to focus and get good marks in coming exams. I also want to manifest good grades for the last 2 semesters. Kindly guide me. Well, you could say something along the lines of, I always get high marks. I always get good grades in all my exams, tests, whatever. The whole point is to just make a story or use affirmations that imply the end result. Which is why I always tell people, like, my affirmations really don't matter. Because someone can say the word potato, and if potato means that you are the luckiest person in the world, then that's what's going to work. Because the law really has no rules. It's whatever you assume to be true is true. And then anything you see in the physical world, if it's not to your liking or it doesn't coincide with the story that you're telling, then you leave it alone because it has nothing to do with you. How do I stop getting mad at SP as if they have free will, although I consciously know they don't? I feel like I keep separating them from me unconsciously. I guess I can't fully believe and everyone needs to be pushed out. So you sort of answered your own question. You keep separating them, even though there is no separation. Everyone is just you. For me, something like this, I really truly didn't grasp and I didn't understand it fully until I had experience in what the law really is. When you have an understanding about something, it's almost like fears, doubts, and worries just kind of go away because you understand how something works. If I were to sit here and tell you that I'm worried that tomorrow we're all going to be flying into space because I don't know if gravity is going to be working, that would be like a lie, because I do understand that gravity is always constantly working. And because I have an understanding that gravity is always working, that fear kind of goes away. And so, similarly to like your situation, the thought of people having free will is not something that crosses my mind anymore, solely because I understand how the law works. Everyone is just assuming the position that I'm giving them. So nothing could ever affect me or be negative if I don't allow it to. Now, it's one thing to understand the law, and it's another thing to not be disciplined, to use the law correctly. And I'm gonna just put correctly in quotations because the law is objective, so it doesn't really matter how you use it, it's going to grant what you want regardless. But let's just say use it favorably. It's all about just not judging it. Don't judge the physical world. If it's not ideal, if it doesn't look ideal, it has nothing to do with you. Practice, like truly just practice seeing a situation that doesn't feel comfortable and just telling yourself, this means nothing. I'm gonna direct my focus onto something else. Like truly just implement that. Implement that starting today. See something you don't like, whether it be money, a specific person, a situation, work, it doesn't matter what it is, guys. See something that you don't like and go, this has nothing to do with me because my story is insert your new assumption, and then you leave it alone. Hello, hello. When you feel yourself engaging with the undesirable 3D, what are some quick ways to pull yourself back into your inner world? I literally just say that has nothing to do with me. That's it. And I'm sorry if like my responses seem so straight to the point and simple, but I made this whole channel and I make my responses to you guys very easy and simple just so you guys can truly understand that we are the ones making it a lot harder than it needs to be. My responses are straight to the point because manifestation is straight to the point. Your emotions, your ego, your spiraling thoughts are the ones making this a lot harder than it needs to be. All my years of practicing law of assumption or manifestation has literally allowed me to summarize manifestation to what I've learned it to be since the beginning. What you assume to be true is true. That's it, that's all. Nothing more, nothing less. How to discipline your thoughts more. Um, Compartmentalize the thoughts that make you feel good versus the one that don't. So, or you could just give everything good meaning, even when you see things that are negative. Get into the habit of, if something doesn't seem ideal, give it the meaning that it's working out for you. Some way, somehow, it's just working out for you. Some way, somehow, because everything works in your favor and this situation is being present right now, it has no choice but work in your favor too. And you just get in the habit of constantly doing this over and over and over and over and over again, and it just seems second nature. Please recommend your favorite non-dualism and manifestation YouTube channels. Um, there's Tifra Grande, there's Taylor Tooks, there's Indigo. I feel like those are the ones I actively watch. I don't consume manifestation content anymore, guys, because once it literally clicked for me, you have the understanding that everything is literally all just the same. It's just everyone is wording it a bit different. How do you deal with negative thoughts and keep yourself more in control? I take the quote unquote negative part out of it and just reduce it to just a thought, and then it no longer is scary. How can I manifest 10K per month and consistent clients daily? That's the affirmation you would use, right? So I make 10K a month and I have consistent clients daily. You would say this every day or whenever you feel like it, or you can visualize it. And this is the part that people go wrong. They say affirmations, but then they instantly look for results. Understand that the results are you. You are the validation. So even if like you say it today and you don't see anything happening within the next hour, don't get discouraged. Don't feel like you're doing anything wrong because you're not. Understand that the story became true the second you assumed it. Don't let the physical world take you out of your assumption because everything is neutral. Once you use the physical world as validation and it doesn't show you what you want and you make an assumption about something that was neutral, now you have to experience that assumption that you just created for something that had literally nothing to do with you because you are God of your reality. My SP said he would block me if I call him one more time. How do you make him love me and make me his wife? I really love that man. Please reply. Um, so the same way you would manifest anything else, you make assumptions about your SP that imply the favorable story. Now, I don't want you to focus entirely on your specific person because everyone is just you. So to build yourself up and to ensure that this doesn't happen again once they come in, work on self concept. Please. Everyone, please work on self concept. Yes, you can manifest your SP using SP affirmations. I'm not saying that's not going to work. It will. You will manifest them. However, I've noticed that when people fully dedicate their times to manifesting their SPs and not working on self concept, the second SP does something that even resembles something unfavorable, you start to spiral. You start to think negative again. Why? Because you didn't regulate yourself. You didn't take the time to build yourself up to the point where you know that he's not doing anything or she's not doing anything that would hurt you. A lot of people think that if you work on self concept, your SP is going to forget about you. That's the complete opposite. That's not true. If you understand manifesting, you understand that everyone is you, so that can quite literally never happen. Can you talk more about being God and the operant power? I think it's one of the main keys to manifest. So, this essentially to me just means that I am the creator of my reality. And I'm going to use the word creator in quotations because I'm not really creating anything. It's more like selecting. Everything's already done, everything's already here, everything's already been created. We're just aligning ourselves to see it. And because we're the only ones in our realities with this ability, we are essentially the gods here. We are essentially the ones making all the commands to reproduce a result that we want to experience. Similarly to how God would do it in the Bible or whatever religion you guys can think of. Thank you. I don't have a question, but a success story. Your coaching helped me so much, and I have my SP how I want them. Your teachings are amazing. You see, it's all so easy, guys. Once you apply the things that I teach on here, it's so easy. Like, it's not hard. It's just the thing is, it's like our ego is making it a lot harder than it needs to be. It's really straightforward, it's very simple. But congrats, I am so happy for you. What are the best advice you can give about physical appearance change? Just decide you now have the the change that you want. Have a smaller nose. Don't look at the physical world for validation because know that it is true the second you decided it was. You start to pull yourself back into the old reality when you look at the 3D for validation, you decide it's not working, and so now you're back at square one. Yeah, I'm gonna save this life. Do you feel like if someone feels stuck or has a lot of doubts, they should repeat affirmations more? You feel resistance to? That depends. I don't ever want to like put something on anyone because even though someone could be very doubtful, I don't want to say you have to do anything because that very person could have like anxiety issues where affirming all day gives them more anxiety. And so now, because of my advice, they're doing something that's causing them more harm, which is not something I ever want to do. I always just say this: do whatever feels comfortable because the law is so open, the law is so broad that there's really not anything you have to do. You could stand on your head upside down, and if that is what gets you to change your assumption, then it works. Remember, the only thing you need to do is just change your assumption. How you do that doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter. This is why I tell people constantly that no technique will get you your manifestation. It's just a vessel that drives you to your desired reality. Almost like a permission slip or a placebo. Because since you use the technique, it gave you like the okay to now experience your manifestation, or it gave you the okay to be able to now have whatever it is that you want. But it wasn't the technique that worked. It was you believing that the technique works is what made it work. Does that make sense? It was never the technique. You just assumed that if I use this technique, it's going to make me manifest. And so it did. But it wasn't really the technique that manifested. Because even when you use the technique, you're still under the law of assumption, assuming that because I use said technique, it's going to make me manifest. So you can't run away from the law even if you tried. You just use these placebos to kind of like wiggle your way into your desire, which is not wrong or bad. But I want you guys to really understand what you're doing when you do them. Just the same way as visualizing or scripting is not wrong or bad. If it gets you to assume differently, then it's amazing. It's perfect. Do whatever it is that you want, but don't feel like you have to affirm a million times a day to make something true because it's not right. It's not true. Literally an assumption takes 1 second to make. I assume that the sky is green. See how fast that was? All right, guys, I'm gonna answer a few more questions because I do have a meeting soon. I just wanted to get on here and give you guys some content before I got busy. I want to kind of um, answer something that multiple people can get answers from. Let me see. In your old videos, you said that you would affirm 5 minutes every hour. So, as a beginner, you affirmed more frequently. Do you recommend that to people who feel uneasy in the moment to keep their mind on the new story? Yeah, because at that time, when I was a lot newer to the concept of manifesting, to me, that felt right at that. This is why I always tell everyone like use the techniques that feel right to you. At that time, at that point in time, I couldn't just decide something. I couldn't just like assume something and just go about my day. So I used like small increments of um affirmation times to truly understand that my story is now true. And that's not something I do now because manifestation just clicked for me. I can just assume that something is true instantly because I just know how the law works. I don't have to do any technique if I don't want to because that's not the point. That's not the point anymore of manifesting. So, yeah. But yeah, that is something I used to do, and I don't do it anymore. But yeah. All right, guys, we are at the 30-minute mark. Um, I'm glad you guys enjoyed this live with me. I'm gonna save it. I'm sorry I didn't get to everyone's questions. I'm gonna try to come back again on Friday and we'll do like an hour live. But yeah, Don't give anything that you see in the physical world any negative meaning because it's neutral. And stay persistent in your new assumptions. You have whatever it is that you want. Don't let the physical world fool you. All right, guys. Happy manifesting.